Hello everyone, I hope everyone's doing well today. Today we're going to do something a little bit different, something that I've been wanting to do for a while now. Today I'm going to do a lesson based on headlines from the news and teach you English learning the news. So I found a few headlines that have some good phrasal verbs, some key vocabulary, and some expressions that might be difficult for a non-native speaker to understand, especially if your English is at the intermediate level, beginner to intermediate, and even for some advanced students, I think this will be useful as well. Let's get to our first headline here. So this one's an article from CNN, Why Grounding 737 MAX jets is a big deal for Boeing. Why grounding 737 MAX jets is a big deal for Boeing. So the key phrase I want to focus on here is a big deal, why it's a big deal. So the phrase to be a big deal is something that we use when we want to say that something is of significant importance. It's a big issue. It's something to pay attention to. It's not to be taken lightly. We'll use this expression, big deal. The word deal is used in a lot of phrases and expressions, so I think I'm going to do a lesson just on phrases and expressions with the word deal, because I think that'll be helpful too. But looking at this article here, the headline tells me that the writer of this article is going to focus on why grounding these Boeing 737 MAX jets is a significant affair. It's an important issue. It's a big deal. It's not just something that we should take lightly. So that's what the expression means. Take note that this expression is also used sarcastically. For example, if you don't think something is very important, you can use intonation to say, big deal, big deal. My friend might tell me, hey, it's gonna rain tomorrow. That's a bummer. And I might say, big deal. I'm stuck at work anyway, so I'm not really worried about it. Big deal. But we also use it matter-of-factly to say, oh, this is a really big deal. For example, if I'm going to win some sort of award that I worked really hard for, I might say, wow, this is a really big deal for me. So for something to be a big deal just means it's important, but used sarcastically, it can mean, I'm not too worried about it. Big deal. I don't think it's a big issue that's going to affect me. Another note on this headline, grounding the Boeing 737 MAX. This just simply means to force the plane to stay on the ground, basically. The plane can't fly right now. The Aviation Administration has issued a grounding of these planes, so they have to stay on the ground, is basically what that means. And you might be familiar with the word ground as a noun. What you stand on when you are outside, that is the ground, like the pavement or concrete or the dirt or grass, that we call that all the ground, right? But we also use it as a verb. To ground something basically means to make something stay on the ground. Grounding is also a punishment. To ground your children means you're taking away privileges from them, or you are forcing them to stay at home. They can't leave the house to go play with friends. They are grounded. It's also used as an electrical term when you have the positive and negative in electricity, and you need the positive to ground to the negative to create a full loop of electricity. I'm clearly an expert in electricity, believe it or not. But anyway, that's another way grounding can be used. Obviously, I don't know the details of the sophisticated world of electricity, so I'm not exactly sure what it means, but it's basically bringing the current, the electrical current, to the ground or to a ground so that it's under control. Same thing with lightning. When you have the rod and the lightning hits it and the rod makes it go to the ground, that's grounding something. So that's how the verb to ground works. All right, moving on. Okay, this article here is from NPR, National Public Radio. This headline says, "This week will mark a turning point for Britain and Brexit." Really? So the key phrase I want to focus on here is marking a turning point. Basically, what it means here in this context is that this is going to be a decisive moment for Brexit, right? We've all been hearing about Brexit now for, over a year, I think 2 years now. So this article is kind of talking about something that's been dragging on and going on for a long time and, has been kind of up in the air. There hasn't really been a deciding factor that's determined how the Brexit process is going to work and how it's going to happen. And so this article is saying, this week will mark a turning point. Something is going to change in this process, and it's going to be significant, and it's going to have a significant effect on the Brexit process. So that's what a turning point is. The momentum is going to turn. You have your point, and you're going, and then it hits that turning point and goes another direction. It's a decisive moment, right? And then Brexit is, for those of you who don't know, this is just an abbreviation of British exit and combining the two words. So I knew that just based on common sense. Honestly, I didn't have to look it up at all. British exit. But I imagine if you're a non-native speaker, you might wonder, why do they call it Brexit? I don't get it. So anyway, that's how that works. So a turning point is honestly something that you can use in your daily language. This is a real turning point for me in my studies of English, for example. When I finally started to be able to have conversations with people, that was a real turning point for me when I was learning English. So that's what a turning point is. It's a point where there's a turn. All right, let's look at another headline here. Former Tesla employee files whistleblowing tip with the SEC. So this one here, it's not really a phrase or expression, but it is a common vocabulary word that is used in the news that I wanted to look at. So I posted something on Instagram, tried to do a little quiz with people. Most people understood it based on the context, but a whistle blowing, so let's break the word down. To blow a whistle, think of like a referee in sports, right? I can't whistle, unfortunately. The referee blows the whistle when things need to stop and somebody's committed a foul or a penalty. So this idea has been taken to talk about somebody who draws attention to unethical behavior or illegal activity within an organization. We call that person a whistleblower, somebody who's been like, hey, this terrible behavior is going on and it needs to stop. That person is a whistleblower. So whistleblowing in this headline is an adjective, and it's talking about the noun tip. So it's modifying the noun tip. It's used to describe the noun tip. And in this context, a tip is it's not what you leave the waiter at a restaurant, but a tip in this sense is used. We have a lot of meanings for the word tip. It could be like the tip of your finger. When you're trying to think of a word, you often will say, it's on the tip of my tongue, but I can't think of this word, but it's on the tip of my tongue. It's like you almost know it, but your brain just isn't firing on all cylinders. That's another expression. But let's focus on what it means in terms of the headline of this article. Basically, a whistleblowing tip that was filed to the SEC means that it was a tip that is basically calling attention to some unethical or illegal activity or behavior within the company of Tesla. So the word tip here is basically a piece of information that is provided to authorities. So a lot of times we'll talk about somebody giving a tip to the police that helps them solve a crime. And we'll use a phrasal verb too, like, you know, so-and-so, Bob tipped off the police that his neighbor was manufacturing drugs in his house. So he gave the police a tip. The police took that tip and they arrested Bob's neighbor. The police were tipped off by Bob. Passive voice. So Bob tipped off the police and they reacted and responded based on Bob's tip. So that's how tip is used in that headline. And then the SEC. SEC is Securities and Exchange Commission. It's a government agency that is supposed to monitor. We call these agencies kind of like watchdog agencies, but it's an agency that's supposed to be monitoring transactions, financial transactions, and looking for fraudulent activity. It's the Security and Exchange Commission. So basically what this article is saying is that a former Tesla employee, right, somebody who previously worked for Tesla, he or she no longer works for Tesla anymore, has filed a piece of information to inform the organization of the Securities and Exchange Commission that there was possibly some illicit, illegal, or unethical behavior or activities going on at this company, at Tesla. So that's what the article is talking about based on the headline. All right, and now let's look at another one. This one I'll be pretty quick with. It's an article from USA Today. Free pancakes. IHOP giving away freebies in an annual Pancake Day fundraiser Tuesday. So this one here uses the phrasal verb giving away. Giving away has a little bit of a different meaning than just to give something, right? So when you give something in English, you know, you give a gift, you're giving it to someone. I gave someone $1. It's pretty straightforward, pretty translatable to other languages. Giving away has a little bit of a different meaning. It's often, for example, used when it's something you don't want or you just want to get rid of, you don't want to have anymore, so you just offer it to basically anybody who is interested. So for example, I got a new phone. I always listen to music on my phone now. I don't need my radio anymore, so I'm just giving it away. Anybody who needs a radio, they can take mine. It's giving it away. I don't expect anything in return. I'm not going to try and sell it. I'm just going to give it away. We also use this term when talking about spoiling the ending of a movie, right? If I tell somebody what the ending of a movie was before he or she's seen it, they will say, oh, you gave away the ending. So that's what giving away is. IHOP is a restaurant chain in the United States, restaurant franchise. IHOP stands for the International House of Pancakes, although I don't know how international they are. Do you have IHOPs where you live? I don't know. But anyway, we like to make things bigger than they are. So anyway, the International House of Pancakes is giving away freebies. So freebies, another key word here. A freebie is just something that is free. We call it a freebie. Apparently, I looked it up. There's not a lot of information on the origin of this term, but they some people think it's probably just because free rhymes with the word be, and we kind of like to do little rhyming words kind of to be cutesy in English. So a freebie is basically something that is free, like if you take the word free and be separate, you put them together, it's a freebie. You'll also see this with the term busy bee. People will say, oh, he's a real busy bee. It just means somebody who's busy. That one's actually broken up and spelled properly, like busy and bee. But a busy bee is a busy person. A freebie is a free item. So they're giving away freebies in an annual Pancake Day fundraiser on Tuesday. They're just giving away free pancakes is what you can conclude from that headline. Okay, so that concludes our first lesson here of learning English with the news. A couple headlines just for you to look over. I'm really excited about doing these style lessons because I think it will really give you some practical English knowledge. And I know when you learn an English expression or a phrasal verb, and you just get examples that are kind of made up examples by a teacher, it gets a little bit kind of difficult to conceptualize everything. So what I'm going to do, I'm also going to put a link to these articles in the description so you can follow up and read the articles, and maybe you'll understand them better because you understood the headline much more than if you would have just looked at it on your own and not had any sort of explanation. So that's the hope here. And please ask questions if you have them. I really hope that this provides a little more format to the lessons, and I'm still going to continue talking about English expressions and phrases just on their own and doing lessons like that. But this is a really good way for you to learn English and also follow up on your own and do a little homework as well, because you'll have the links to these articles and be able to read about them and learn some more phrases and ask questions. Please ask questions if you are confused at all and you want to know a little more information, or you want to know if you're using these phrases correctly. Okay, have a great day. Thank you for watching, and keep studying and keep learning, and we'll see you in the next lesson. Woo!